Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you people who are present here. My friends, I have a question for you. Have you ever felt like life has turned up the heat on you when the pressure and the challenges seem to be closing in from all directions? It's easy to feel overwhelmed and unsure of how to navigate through it all. But fear not, because today we have a special treat for you. Join us for a captivating session on the topic of prosper in the pressure cooker, how to survive when life turns up the heat. Ooh. Featuring the remarkable Dr. H. Paul Stanley, a renowned life transformation coach. With his wealth of knowledge and expertise, Dr. Stanley has dedicated his life to helping individuals not only survive but thrive in the face of adversity. So, during the session, we will explore a lot of things like some practical strategies, powerful insights, and invaluable tools that will equip you with the skills to rise above life's challenges. Dr. Stanley will guide us through a transformative journey, teaching us how to tap into our inner strength, resilience, and untapped potential. So, before I hand over the stage to Dr. Stanley, let me share something about Dr. Stanley here. So, Dr. Paul Stanley began working with people who were struggling with problems, and that was in 1977 when he, after completing the master's degree in counseling, he realized that every struggle that a person can have, it is because of either the problem that makes the problem worse, that is stress, or it stops you from recovering from the problem. The major focus of his career has been on helping people, businesses, and organizations manage their stress well so they can thrive. Dr. Stanley completed his PhD at the University of Mississippi in counseling psychology in 1983. So he practiced as a psychologist from 1984 till March 2008, 18, sorry. So he is a trained certified he is a trained and certified as a professional coach and began coaching people, helping tap into and use their stress to live rich, abundant, highly satisfying lives. He is also available to provide presentations and training to businesses and other organizations. And his passion is to help people from all walks of life cope well with stress so that they can use the stress in their lives to thrive. So, without any delay, let's welcome Dr. Stanley on the stage. You can write, Welcome, Dr. Stanley, and Dr. Paul Stanley, over to you.
Thank you, Prashant. I appreciate that. And if you will bring my slides up. All right. Prosper in the pressure cooker, how to survive when life turns up the heat. Like Prashant said, that's what we are focusing on today. And I would encourage you, those of you that are listening, to have a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper, because there's a couple of points that you'll want to write down during this presentation. If you do that, at the end of the presentation, you will know some things that you can do to bring down your stress quickly. And you'll know when to use those techniques and tools and when not to use those techniques and tools. Back in 1977, I had just completed my master's degree in counseling, and I had my very first job in a mental health setting. I was working for an agency that was providing services for alcohol and drug addicts, and I was over my head. I had had very little experience with that group of people, I knew very little about it. In fact, I had very limited experience counseling, period. I was the only counselor at this particular agency, so I had no support, and it was very stressful. After I was there for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that, I started having these horrible headaches. They were debilitating. When a headache would start, the only thing I could do is go into my office, shut the door, and do nothing the rest of the day, or just leave work and go home. So like most people, when they have that kind of, at least most people here in the US, when they have that kind of a physical problem, they go to see the doctor. That's what I did. And my doctor said, well, maybe it's sinus infections. He gave me a bunch of antibiotics and antihistamines and antidepressants. None of it did any good. So I thought, well, maybe it's eye strain. So I went to see an eye doctor. He examined my eyes and talked to me about what the headaches were like. And he said, no, those are not eye strain headaches. Another friend went to see a doctor, an ear, nose, and throat doctor about that time, and he liked the guy. So I went to see him, and he gave me some more useless medication. And then he started talking about wanting to do surgery. I knew I didn't want to have sinus surgery. Another friend about that time went to see a doctor, and she really liked this doctor. So I thought, well, I'll give him a try. So I went to see him, and he gave me a medication that worked. It got rid of the headaches as long as I was taking the medication. If I quit taking the medication, the headaches came right back. But as long as I was taking the medication, the headaches were gone. So I looked it up to see what it was used for, and I found that it was used for two things. One was menstrual cramps. I was quite sure that my headaches were not related to menstrual cramps. I had never really had a problem with menstrual cramps. The second thing it was used for was muscle tension. I thought, well, these headaches must be related to muscle tension. Muscle tension was something that I was trained to deal with. I knew how to use some techniques and tools to help people reduce muscle tension. So I started using a rapid stress relief technique that is good for reducing muscle tension. And within just a week or two, the headaches were gone, and they've never come back. Now I have a headache once in a blue moon. Stress can cause all kinds of problems in your life. It's hard to function fully, effectively. It's hard to thrive when you're feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and totally stressed out. So over the next 40 minutes or so, we're going to talk about three things. First, we're going to talk about what you don't know about stress that can cost you everything. Secondly, we're going to talk about the 5 top things that every overloaded person should know about stress. And thirdly, we're going to talk about 3+ easy ways to dial down your stress right now. So let's start with what you don't know about stress that can cost you everything. Stress hurts. I bet everyone listening to this knows that. You've had a headache at some time in your life related to stress, or maybe neck pain or back pain that was stress related. You may have tossed and turned half the night, unable to go to sleep because of something stressful going on in your life. You know stress hurts. But what you may not know is that stress does more than hurt. Stress harms. Stress actually does damage. Stress makes you sick. The American Psychological Association says that some 75 to 90% of all doctor visits are because of stress-related illnesses. I was driving down the interstate the other day, interstate highway, and I saw this sign. Now that got my attention. I was wondering what that was all about. So at the next exit, I got off the highway looking for this stress-free zone, and this is what I found. One of the original stress researchers, Hans Selye, said the opposite of stress is dead. As long as you're living, as long as you're breathing, you're going to be experiencing stress, and that stress can kill you. In developed countries, these are the diseases and medical disorders that are most often associated with death. Each and every one of them is stress related. Either stress makes it more probable that you're going to get the disorder, or stress makes it worse when you have it, or stress stops you from recovering from it, keeps you from getting past the disorder. But stress does, well, OSHA, OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Agency of the U.S. government. OSHA reports that work stress contributes to 120,000 deaths each year. But stress does more than just hurt you medically. Stress can wreck every area of your life. Stress makes you fat. There's at least two ways that stress makes you fat. One is the stress hormone cortisol makes you store fat in the center of your body. So stress makes you fat in that way. The second way that stress makes you fat is when you're stressed, you crave foods that boost or raise the serotonin level in your body. Serotonin is a brain chemical, a neurotransmitter that causes you to feel calm and relaxed. So when you're stressed, you crave those kinds of foods, and the foods that boost serotonin are high carbohydrate, high fat foods. So these are the foods that tend to make people gain weight. When you're stressed, you're more irritable, less tolerant. And so you're much more likely to get involved in an altercation or an argument. Stress contributes to financial problems. When your stress level goes up, your impulse control goes down. And so when you're stressed out, you're much more likely to purchase something that you don't need, and 3 days later, you don't even want. Stress contributes to alcohol and drug abuse. And I'm not just talking about the abuse of mood and mind-altering drugs, such as alcohol and marijuana and cocaine and Xanax and Valium and Klonopin, but I'm also talking about the abuse of pain medications such as ibuprofen and acetaminophen, which is in Tylenol. Acetaminophen, the overuse of acetaminophen, is one of the things that contributed to my mother's death. Well, if you're stressed out and having a lot of aches and pains related to stress, you're probably taking more of those medications than you should be taking. Stress even contributes to tooth decay. One of the functions of saliva is it lessens the bacteria in your mouth. When you're stressed, you have a dry mouth. When you have a dry mouth, you have less saliva. With less saliva, you have more bacteria. With more bacteria, you have more tooth decay. So stress contributes to tooth decay. Stress certainly can have a negative impact on your job, on your career. You don't work as efficiently and as effectively when you're stressed out. 83% of people report struggling with work-related stress. 77% report that their stress is severe enough to cause health problems. 73% report that their stress is severe enough to cause mental health problems. Now, the U.S. economy, U.S. employers, stress costs them $300 billion a year in healthcare expenses and missed work. Now, that's a big number, and that's about all the employees in the United States. So bring it down to a smaller scale. Absenteeism cost a business $3,600 per hourly employee and $2,650 per salaried employee. What does that do to the cost of goods that we have to buy? When you're stressed out, you suffer, but you don't suffer alone. That stress creates a ripple effect, which causes others that are close to you to suffer. It causes family members to suffer. It causes friends and coworkers to suffer. It can even cause other drivers on the highway to suffer. Have you ever gotten involved in a road rage incident, for example? Now, all of these statistics are based on studies that were done in the United States. I have never really researched statistics in India. So a week or so ago, I thought, well, maybe I should see what stress is like in India. Remember, we said 83% of people report that they experience work-related stress. I found this article published in February of 2021 in the Times of India on the timesofIndia.com. And the article reported that 82% of Indians are stressed out, resulting in increased cardiac arrest, blood pressure flare-ups, increased chronic disease, and increased depression and anxiety. It seems that stress in India is pretty much like stress in the United States. Again, these are statistics, and they're about all the people out there. It's easy to hear these kinds of things and say, well, that doesn't really relate to me. But here's the question that you need to be asking yourself right now. How is it stress impacting you personally? How is it impacting your family? And how is it impacting your business? Are you taking too much time off work because of medical problems? Is stress making you fat? Are you feeling intolerant and irritable and thus getting involved in altercations and arguments with people you care about because of the stress? Is stress causing you to use too many drugs or too much alcohol, including those drugs like acetaminophen and ibuprofen? Are you paying for your dentist next vacation? Does stress cause you to do stupid things like get involved in road rage? Is stress draining your bank account? What's the impact of stress on your business's bottom line? Whether you have a business that you own and you're running, or you are an employee at a business, how is stress impacting that business? There's no question but what stress hurts and stress harms. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can respond to stress in such a way that it doesn't hurt you and it doesn't harm you, but it actually helps you. It can help you thrive in every area of your life. So let's move on and talk about the 5 top things that every overloaded person should know about stress. Excuse me. Number 1, stress is your friend when it's managed skillfully. You can define stress as all the energy generating processes that go on inside your body when you have a task to complete, a challenge to reach, or a need to meet. So you can see from that stress is something that's working for you. It's giving you energy that you can use to complete tasks, reach challenges, and meet needs. Stress is like the motor in a car. You have a car and you want to get it from one place to another, you start the motor. When the motor's running, it's generating energy, and you can use that energy to get the car from one place to another. So stress is like the motor that gives you the energy to get from where you are to where you want to be. The second thing that you need to know about stress is that stressors, those things that trigger the stress response, stressors come in all shapes and sizes. There's big stressors and small stressors, positive stressors and negative stressors, on-the-job stressors and off-the-job stressors. The reason this is so important is because a lot of times when people are thinking about the stress in their life, they think about the big problems. It's kind of like you have a wagon, and this wagon has a bunch of stones loaded into it. And the weight of all these stones is about to break the wagon down. And some of these stones are like big boulders, and others are like smaller stones. And you look at your wagon and you say, man, all that weight is about to break my wagon down. I don't want my wagon to break down, but I can't budge those big old boulders. Well, you may not be able to budge the big boulders, but I bet you could unload some of those smaller stones. And if you unload some of those smaller stones, then you have lessened the weight on the wagon. Stress is the same way. You probably have some big stressors in your life that you can't do much about, at least in the short term. But you also have some smaller stressors. And if you deal with and resolve some of these smaller stressors, then you lessen the overall impact, the overall weight of the stress in your life. The third thing you need to know about stress is that strain, that is the change that happens in your body when you're experiencing stress. That strain generates energy. You breathe faster, your heart beats faster, adrenaline is released into your blood, glucose is released into your blood. All of this is generating energy that you can use to do what you want to do and what you need to do. But it also causes wear and tear. Again, think about the motor in a car. When that motor's running, it's generating energy, but it's also wearing out. And after a period of time, you'll have to repair it. And then after some further time, you'll probably have to replace it. Stress is the same way. It's generating energy in your body, but it's also wearing your body out. Now, unlike the motor in your car, your body can repair itself. There's mechanisms designed into your body where your body repairs any disorders and damage that's done. However, when the stress response is turned on, those self-repair mechanisms are turned way down and off. Your body uses the energy to deal with whatever your goal is, whatever your task or challenge or need is at the time that the stress response is turned on, and it pulls energy away from those self-repair activities. So your body doesn't repair itself efficiently when you're stressed out. And all this wear and tear builds up. It's cumulative. The strain you're experiencing today is having an impact on you. The strain you experienced yesterday is having an impact on you. The strain you experienced last week, last month, and even last year is having an impact on you. It all builds up over time. Now, up to a certain point, all of this strain, this is the fourth thing that you need to know about stress. Up to a certain point, all of this strain causes what's called eustress. Eustress is good stress. The prefix eu, spelled EU, means good. So eustress is good stress, like euphoria is a good feeling. Eustress is good stress. And it's good stress because it enhances your performance. My second favorite sport to watch is basketball. When does a basketball team perform the best? In the middle of the game, when they're 20 points ahead, or in the last 2 seconds of the game when they're 3 points behind. Well, if they're well coached and skilled, it's in those last 2 seconds. My favorite sport to watch is American football. When does the defensive line of the football team perform the best? In the middle of the field or in the red zone? Again, if they are well coached and skilled, it's in the red zone. The offensive line can move the ball down the field. They get to the red zone. The red zone is when they're just about to score. They're right within 20 feet. Within 20 feet of scoring, and they're just about to score, and they get all the way down the field to that red zone, and they can't move the ball another inch. That's because that offensive line is performing better. The pressure, the stress of that situation makes them perform better. Eustress is also good stress because it's fun. So much fun that people are willing to pay money for it. Think about this. You're in a car with some friends and you're going up a hill. And you get to the top of that hill, and when the car goes over the top of the hill, it dives down the backside of that hill, and it goes around 3 or 4 circles, and it flips upside down and right side up again. And everyone in that car is throwing their hands up in the air and waving them and screaming and having a great time. What do we call that car? We call it a roller coaster. What happens to your heart when you're riding in a roller coaster? Boom, 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 boom. That roller coaster is stressing you, but it's good stress. It's exciting. You paid money to ride in that roller coaster. You go to see a movie, and there's this young girl in the movie, and she's in a house. She thinks she's by herself in a house, but you can see somebody sneaking up behind her with a knife. What happens to your heart? Boom, 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 boom. That movie is stressing you, but it's good stress. It's exciting. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. You paid money to see that movie. But what happens in today's world is before we get through dealing with one stress, we have 2 to deal with. And before we get through with those 2, we have 4 to deal with. And before we get through with those 4, we have 8 to deal with. And it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. So the 5th thing that you need to know about stress is that eustress becomes distress, and distress is bad stress. Now stress is no longer your friend that's working for you, but rather stress is a fiend that's out to get you, an enemy that wants to do you harm, that's hurting you. So the question that comes up at this point is, how do you stop stress from becoming a fiend? And the answer to that is by managing the energy. Again, think about the motor in a car. You want to get a car from one place to another. You get in it, you start the motor. The motor's generating energy that you can use to get the car from where it is to where you want it to be, but you have to manage that energy. If you don't push down on the accelerator enough, particularly if it's going uphill, it may stall, and you're not going to get far in a stalled car. On the other hand, if you push down on the accelerator too much, you may lose control and have a wreck, or perhaps get a speeding ticket. See? Stress is the same way. If you don't have enough stress in your life, you're going to feel lethargic and bored and unmotivated. It's going to hold you back. It's going to keep you from making progress in your life. On the other hand, if you have too much stress in your life, it's going to cause all those problems that we were talking about earlier. All of that stress can make your life miserable. That's what was happening with Erica. Erica's a person that I know personally that was experiencing a great deal of work-related stress. Erica told me, she said, my supervisor intimidates me. He bullies me. I know that no matter what I do, he's going to tear me apart. He frustrates me to the point of tears. I just want out. Erica was ready to quit her job. Problem was, it wasn't a good time in her life for her to be quitting her job. She needed that job. I'll tell you what happened to Erica in a few minutes. But first, let's move on and talk about 3+ super easy ways to dial down your stress now. When you start talking about and thinking about getting rapid stress relief, timing is important. If you use rapid stress relief techniques at the wrong time, it can hurt you and hold you back. So timing is important. You need to know when to use those rapid stress relief techniques and tools. You need to ask yourself 2 questions. The first question is, how much stress do I need? Remember, we said stress has to build up to the point that it's motivating you, that it's energizing you. If it's too low, you feel lethargic and bored and unmotivated. And you're not going to make much progress in your life if you're feeling lethargic and bored and unmotivated. So it has to build up to the point that it becomes eustress. So ask yourself the question, on a scale of from 0 to 100, how high does your stress level need to be before it gets to the eustress level? Write that down on a sheet of paper. Eustress equals, and put the number out there that you think stress needs to rise to become eustress for you. And then ask yourself the second question. How much stress is too much? When does that eustress become distress? Again, write down the number. When does the stress that's working for you become distress, a fiend in your life that's working against you and causing you problems? The area between the E and the D is the friend zone. The area beyond the D is the fiend zone. It's when stress enters the fiend zone that it becomes an enemy. And that's when you want to start using rapid stress relief techniques. When it gets over there where it's just about to enter the fiend zone, it's just about to move past that D and begin causing problems. You don't want to use it when it's back in the early part of the eustress zone, the friend zone. If you do that, you're going to be lessening the energy that you have available to you to accomplish what you want to accomplish. That's like driving a car down the street with one foot on the accelerator and the other foot on the brake. It's going to hold you back. It's going to keep you from making the progress that you need and want to make. So wait until it gets over there close to where it's entering the fiend zone, where it's just about to pass the D into the fiend zone before you start using rapid stress relief techniques. What is the difference between the word friend and the word fiend? Well, obviously, the difference is an R. If you take the R out of friend, you have fiend. You put the R back in fiend, you have friend. So when stress stops being your friend and starts becoming a fiend, you need to have some R factors to make stress your friend again. An R factor is anything that you can do to help you de-stress quickly, reduce the stress quickly, but it has to start with an R. And in a moment, we're going to talk about some R factors. But first, let me tell you, you want to use the R factors to deal with this so that you don't have to deal with this. But to do that, you need to know what this feels like. So let me ask you, what does it feel like for you when stress enters the friend zone? When stress starts working for you and benefiting you, what does that feel like in your own body? Write some of your responses in the comments. What does it feel like? And I encourage you to write these down. What does eustress feel like for you? Some of you that are listening, write down what stress feels like for you when it enters that friend zone. Anyone? Everyone asleep out there? Okay, for me, it feels like excitement. I can feel my breathing begin to speed up. I can feel my heart beginning to speed up. It's working towards transformation. That's right. But what does it feel like? How do you know when it's beginning to work towards that transformation? I'll begin to feel a little bit hot. I can feel the heat in my body picking up. That means that stress is generating energy. It feels exciting. It's like fun when it builds up to a certain point. And then the second question that I have for you is, what does it feel like when stress enters the fiend zone? When stress starts being an enemy in your life, what does that feel like for you? Usually there's a pattern. My pattern is the very first thing I start feeling when I'm getting stressed out, when stress is moving past the D into the fiend zone. Excuse me, my throat gets dry. That's one thing. One of the first things I feel is fatigue. And that's, when stress starts entering the fiend zone, healer is saying that you just want to get rid of it. That's right. I would encourage you, though, to think in terms of it's working for you, so you don't really want to get rid of it. You just want to bring it down to an optimal level. So the first thing I experience is fatigue. And if I don't take a break at that point, I keep on working, then I start feeling irritability. The next thing that happens is my neck starts hurting. I'll get a stiff neck and my neck starts hurting. If I still don't take a break, then the stress, my neck continues to hurt a little bit worse, and then I get this horrible headache. That's the pattern. Those are the things that are like the alarms going off for me, telling me that stress has gotten too high. I need to bring it back down, not get rid of it. That would be like turning the key off in a car. The motor's no longer running. You can't use it to move from one place to another. You just want to bring it back down to an optimal level where it's serving you in the way that it's intended to serve you. Now, we're going to talk about some R factors. And I encourage you to write these things down and to share some of them by commenting in the comments. I'm going to share 3 R factors with you. I'm going to start off by sharing an extremely powerful R factor, but it's very, very easy to use. Easy but powerful. And it's based on a great deal of research. The second thing, the second R factor I'm going to share with you is a fun R factor. And then the third R factor I'm going to share with you is a versatile R factor. Remember, an R factor is something that you can do to bring your stress level down quickly. The simple but powerful R factor is to remind yourself that stress is your friend. When stress starts building up and you can feel all that energy, tell yourself, verbalize to yourself, hey, that's stress. It's working for me. It's producing energy. Okay? Research has shown that when you think of stress as something that enhances your life, it reduces the negative impact of that stress and it increases the positive impact of that stress. Give you an example. When you're stressed, your heart rate starts beating faster. It actually is delivering oxygen to the cells in your body faster. So you start breathing faster and your heart beats faster. If you think of stress as being negative, your blood vessels also contract. But if you think of stress as being life enhancing, something that's beneficial, your heart speeds up, your breathing speeds up, your heart rate speeds up, but your blood vessels don't contract. And so it doesn't raise your blood pressure like it would if you were thinking of that stress as being detrimental. So all you have to do is remind yourself, hey, this is stress and it's my friend. It's generating energy that I can use to enhance my life to accomplish what I want to accomplish. Here's what happens. Remember, we said the area between the E and the D is the fiend zone. The area beyond the D is the friend zone. When you remind yourself that stress is your friend, it enlarges the friend zone. You can experience more stress and get the benefit of that without experiencing the negative impact. So you have more energy to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Now, the fun R factor, my favorite fun R factor is to play, oh, excuse me, I skipped this slide. When you think of stress as your friend, these are the benefits that you experience. And each and every one of them has been validated through good, solid research. So this is a powerful but easy R factor. Now, moving on to my fun R factor. My favorite fun R factor is to play retrieve the tennis ball. This is Edison. Edison used to be our Cocker Spaniel. Edison was an old guy. He was about 14 years old, and he died a few months ago. So we don't have Edison anymore. But Edison had 5 tennis balls, and he loved to play retrieve the tennis ball. He would go get a tennis ball, bring it back, lay it down close to where you were, and sit there and stare at you until you stopped what you were doing, picked the tennis ball up, and threw it. And he'd run and get it and bring it back, lay it back down, and resume staring at you. You could do this 5 or 6 times. And then Edison would run, get the tennis ball, and run under the table. He was tired of it. He didn't want to play anymore. Hey, but I could be in my home office here working, and stress begins to come up, and I could stop and go play retrieve the tennis ball with Edison just for 2 or 3 minutes, and it would bring my stress level back down. The problem with that kind of a R factor is that in the middle of your workday, when stress is beginning to build up, you can't just stop and go home and play with your dog. So you need to have some versatile R factors that you can use in a variety of situations. My favorite versatile R factor is repetitive focus. Repetitive focus is based on the research of Herbert Benson. Dr. Benson is a cardiologist. He teaches at Harvard Medical School. He's been researching stress and the impact of stress on the body for over 40 years. Dr. Benson has found that your body can enter a state which he calls the relaxation response. The relaxation response is the physiological opposite of the stress response. All those things that happen in the stress response that generate energy are reversed during the relaxation response, and your body begins to rest, recuperate, and heal itself. Remember, we said when you're in the stress response, those self-healing mechanisms are turned down. They don't function as efficiently as and effectively. But when you're in the relaxation response, they're turned up. And so the more you relax, the more your body will begin to heal itself. You can put yourself in the relaxation response by focusing on and repeating a word or a sound or a phrase or a movement. You just repeat it to yourself and focus your attention on it. As you're doing that, random thoughts will enter your mind. When you notice one of these random thoughts, you simply disregard it and return your focus to the repetition. So this is a meditative kind of practice. You can do this for 1.5 to 2 minutes, and you will begin to enter a mildly relaxed state. You can see it happening on a heart rate monitor. You can use this technique for 10 to 15 minutes, and you'll put yourself in a moderately relaxed state. Do it for 20 to 30 minutes, and you put yourself in a deeply relaxed state. The more you do it, the easier it becomes, the better you get at it, and the more deeply you'll relax. And like I said, the more you do it, the greater the impact. It builds up. When you relax today, it has a positive benefit on you. When you relaxed yesterday, it had a positive benefit on you. It's still benefiting you. Last week and last month and even last year is also having a positive benefit in your life. So the reason I like this technique so much is because it's so versatile. You can use it almost anywhere. You just repeat this word or sound or phrase in your own mind, not out loud. You can do it out loud, but if you don't want other people to know what you're doing, you do it in your own mind, silently, focusing your attention on it, and no one else even needs to know you're doing it. You're bringing your stress level down, and you can do it in all kinds of settings and situations. So it's a very, very versatile R factor. Now, share some of your favorite R factors with me. What are some things that you can do brings your stress level down? It's got to start with an R. Any ideas? Okay, I'll just throw out a few more. Rest. If you've been working hard, you need to go take a rest. Relax. Go through maybe a formal relaxation exercise. Go for a run. Now, if you're like me, you run very, very, very slowly. And like you could even call it walk, but we know it's just slow running. Go for a ride on a motorcycle, a ride in the car. Close your eyes and breathe. Close your eyes and breathe. Does it start with an R? Thank you, Healer, for sharing that. But the word respire means to breathe. So you can respire. Just close your eyes and slowly respire. That will relax you. Hey, a lot of people like to listen to music when they're stressed out. Hello, Malik. Glad you're with us. A lot of people like to cycling. Yeah, go for a ride on a bicycle or a motorcycle. Cycling, go for a ride is a great R factor. A lot of people like to listen to music. Music doesn't start with an R, but a lot of times when you're wanting to listen to music, you turn on the radio. That's right. Go for a walk. Walk doesn't start with an R. It's got to start with an R. But like I said, that's just running very, very, very slowly. So slow running is just walking, right? Practice religious activities. Me, I pray when I'm stressed out. Rest is a great one. Good R factor. Thank you. Any others? There are literally hundreds of them. When I'm doing this with a group and I'm writing on a whiteboard, we can fill a whiteboard completely up, writing. Now, to make it an R factor, we could say record. Record on with pencil and paper. Record your thoughts, what's going on, how you feel about it, what you want to say to somebody else. Recording all these thoughts by writing them out is a great R factor. Any others? Okay. If the only thing we do today, recall some good moments. That's a great one. Recall some good moments. That'll bring your feelings up, your joy up, and your stress down. Great one. If the only thing we do today is talk about reducing the symptoms of stress using these R factors, then I would be remiss, because there's a caution that comes to play here. And that caution is, if all you're doing is focusing on the symptoms of stress, those symptoms will soon return. And oftentimes they return with a vengeance. So you need to move beyond the symptoms of stress, rapid stress relief, which focuses on the symptoms of stress, to real stress relief, which focuses on the causes of stress. I have developed 3 processes that can help you do that. The first process is the big picture. This is where you create a vision of the less stressful, more balanced, highly satisfying life that you want to be living. Rapid eye movement is a great R factor. Yeah, EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy is a great R factor. You want to create a big picture. And this big picture is, it needs to include all the different important areas of your life and how you're addressing and meeting the needs in those areas. When I'm working with a person in a coaching relationship, I guide them through creating this big picture in a step-by-step way. Excuse me a minute while I moisten my throat. Okay. The second process is the cure plan. The cure plan is the steps that you take, the process that you go through to deal with internal stressors, those things that go on inside you that trigger stress and make stress worse and keep you stuck in stress. Feelings, thoughts, and beliefs. These are the mindsets or the attitudes that feed into your stress. Have you ever known somebody that was just angry all the time? No matter what was going on, they were angry. Well, it wasn't what was going on around them was causing them to be angry. It was something that was going on inside them. They had an attitude or a mindset that was triggering and keeping them stuck in anger. Or maybe something happens in their life that would make almost anyone feel apprehensive, but it throws them into a panic. Again, there's something going on inside them that's amplifying that stress. So with the cure plan, going through those steps, step by step, you can identify and reprogram that attitude or that belief system or that mindset. And then the third process is the grow plan. The grow plan are the steps that you take to deal with external stressors, situations and circumstances that are triggering stress in your life, and even your own actions, when your actions trigger stress. With the grow plan, you can identify what those actions are, what those situations, circumstances, and actions are, and then in a systematic way, work on changing those. These processes can be used by people that have poorly developed coping skills. Stress very seldom, or stress causes a lot of problems for them, and they really desperately need to strengthen their coping skills. But it also can be used by people that have moderately well-developed coping skills. Most of the time, they handle their stress pretty well, but every now and then it builds up and it gets the best of them. So they too could strengthen their coping skills. And then it can be used by those that have strong coping skills. Stress almost never causes problems, but they too would like to learn how to tap into the benefits of stress, the motivation and the energy and the direction that stress is giving them so that they can use that stress to thrive. By using these processes, you can transform just surviving the stress in your life into thriving because of the stress in your life. I have written a short ebook that gives you more information about these processes. I'd like to give you a copy of that. You can download a copy of that at this URL. It's Paul Stanley. In fact, I think it's best to leave the www off. I found that out just recently. hpaulstanleycoaching.com/free-gift. hpaulstanleycoaching.com/free-gift. Go to that URL and you can click on a link there and download this ebook. And it's a very short ebook, quick and to the point, just giving you kind of an overview of these processes. Before we disband, let me tell you about what happened to Erica. Erica is the person that I was telling you about earlier that was having all the work-related stress. Erica happened to be a school teacher, and she learned and began using these rapid and real stress relief processes. Then she told me, she said, I've changed my perspective. I still don't like the way my supervisor does things, but I know I have to do it his way. He's the one that's in charge, and that's okay. I still tell him what I think. I don't just let him run over me, but now I have peace of mind. I feel calm. I know I'm serving my students in a positive way, and that's what makes it worth it. You see, that's what the rapid real stress relief process did for Erica. It gave her peace, calm, purpose. That's the kind of thing that it can do for you. Any questions?
So, friends, it's actually going wonderful, wonderful session, Dr. Stanley. And friends, if you have any questions, please do ask. You can write in your questions, and you'll get the answer. Till then, I've got some questions from some of the audiences. So, audience who are here, I've got some questions. So, the first one is, what are some common misconceptions people have about handling pressure and adversity?
I think one of the most common is that you need to get rid of it. And I hear this all the time. Somebody recently sent me an email and said, wow, I sure would enjoy being stress-free. Can you create a stress-free life? Well, there is a physiological state that is very close to stress-free. They measure stress by measuring cortisol levels. That's one way to measure stress, cortisol levels in your body. There is a point where you have almost zero cortisol. And you have very, very low adrenaline. It's called adrenal fatigue syndrome. When you've experienced stress over a period of time, you overwhelm your adrenal glands. It quits producing cortisol and it quits producing adrenaline, and your stress level comes down almost down to zero, and you feel tired and unmotivated and depressed, and all you want to do is sleep.
Yeah.
Life becomes a bore at that time. I don't know whether this happens in India or not. In the United States, kids, particularly on Saturday mornings, will often say, Mom, I'm bored. There's nothing to do. You experience the adult version of that. That's having no adversity in your life. That adversity, if you look at it as a challenge, as an opportunity, then it can help you grow and mature and thrive and become a better person. Someone said that, I don't know who this quote comes from, but someone said that adversity is just problem or opportunities with work clothes on. You have to get to work to deal with that adversity. That was a good question.
Right. Thank you so much. It's wonderful answer. So the next question is, how can someone recognize when he's approaching his limits and he needs to take an action?
Right,
What is the time?
right. That your negative feelings are an alarm. You're driving a vehicle down the road. Little red light on your dashboard comes on. You know there's a problem. You look down and you see which light has come on. You know something about what the problem is. If it's the overheat light, you know there's a problem with the cooling system. If it's the battery light, you know there's a problem with the alternators not recharging the battery. That those lights are alarms telling you that there's a problem that you need to stop and deal with. And if you don't stop and deal with it, you'll burn your engine up. You can lose your engine. Our feelings are the same way. When you experience, this is what the cure plan is about. When you start experiencing a negative feeling, it's an alarm going off saying, hey, there's something that needs some attention in your life. You need to stop and pay attention to what that is. Now, as you clarify what the feeling is and follow it through and find out what the message is in that feeling, then you know what to do. The stress is giving you direction. If it's sadness, there's one message there. If it's apprehension or fear or anxiety, that's a totally different message. If it's anxiety, nervousness, worry, that's a
Yeah,
totally different message. If it's guilt or shame or embarrassment, that's a totally different message. And each of these different feelings give you different messages by identifying what's triggering that and then resolving it. Excuse me, either resolving it externally by changing the situation, or internally by changing your attitude, you can resolve that problem.
Okay. That was a great answer. The next one is sometimes we lose our mindset. Like when a person is in stress,
Mm-hmm.
he is not able to focus on the positive things. So, how can he develop that emotional resilience to stay calm and focused
Okay.
during the time?
When you start losing focus, that means the stress level has passed from the friend zone into the fiend zone.
Mhm.
Because early in stress, you're hyper focused. You're focused on whatever's causing the stress. As that stress continues to rise, then you move into that fiend zone, and your focus becomes diffuse. It's all over the place. You can't focus on what's going on. So at that point, you need to start using some of those R factors and bring that stress back down into the friend zone by doing some of those things that we were talking about earlier. Go for a walk, listen to some music, record some things on paper, do some deep respite, deep breathing that, excuse me, I thought I had that on silent. Do some deep breathing that brings that stress down, using these R factors to get stress back down where you can focus again.
Okay. All right. So, what role does this self reflection play in prospering in the pressure cooker?
Okay. When you have a stressor, when something's going on that needs attention, that's usually a challenge, something that you need to accomplish to thrive. Or it may be a goal that you set for yourself, a task you want to complete. You need to complete this task to thrive in some area of your life. Or it may be a need that's not being met adequately. By identifying those tasks that need to be completed, and those challenges that you have that you want to reach,
Yeah.
and those needs that you need to meet, and then using these techniques, this grow plan and cure plan techniques, to meet that challenge, complete that task, meet that need, then you begin to thrive. That thrive by definition is growing. And so by completing tasks, reaching challenges, and meeting needs, you begin to grow. And you're doing that. You're keeping the pressure. In a pressure cookers are used to cook food at a more rapid rate. Right? You can use it in just a pot, cook slowly, or you can put it in a pressure cooker and cook it faster. Same way with the pressure cooker of life. When you have all that pressure and you're keeping the pressure at an optimal level using R factors, and then you start addressing what's causing the pressure, you begin to grow, and you begin to grow more rapidly. So,
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So there's another question is like, when someone is in high pressure situation, usually we say, reframe the situation like it is bringing
mhm.
something positive for you. But
Mhm.
when somebody is in a high pressure situation, how can that person approach like towards positivity?
Yes, that's the cure. That's what the cure plan is all about. It's you start with a feeling, identify the feeling, then you look at the feeling in the context, and figure out um, what the message in that feeling is. Remember, we said that sadness has one message, anxiety has another message. So, in the context of the situation, what is the specific message? And then you tell yourself a true statement. I call it a transforming truth. It's a truth statement that transforms the situation. You tell yourself that, and then you act on it. And then you look and see what the results were. And if the results were positive, you keep on doing it. If the results weren't positive, then you cycle back through it again, and find another transforming truth that you can tell yourself and act on. But the thing to keep in mind is that both of those steps are absolutely necessary. You have to tell yourself the truth, and you have to behave according to that truth. Act on that truth. If you tell, I have a brother-in-law has a doctorate in pharmacology. So I
Okay.
was asking him one day, I said, isn't there some pharmacological research that shows that you have an illness, you go to the doctor, he gives you some medicine, you go to the drugstore and get that prescription filled, you take it home, put it on a shelf, and never take it. It doesn't do you any good. And he says,
Yeah.
yes, that's true. If you don't take the medicine, it's not going to help you. If you
Right.
don't put these truth statements into action, they're not going to help you. And that's one of the dynamics of coaching. Coaching helps people to put things into things that they oftentimes already know. It's not like a coach is telling you something you don't know. He's just helping you to access and implement what you already know. So,
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So what are some effective ways to manage and overcome self-doubt? Because
self
most of the
doubt.
time, yeah,
Yeah.
when a person is in stress, he most of the time he thinks, why is it happening with me? Why
Mm-hmm.
me? Is there something wrong with me? What is happening with me?
Yeah.
Why me? What should I do? Am I
And
not worth? Yeah.
yeah, self pity is kind of a something that many of us struggle with in 12-step programs like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. They have this slogan. The slogan is pour me, pour me, pour me another drink. Um,
Yeah.
and the self pity, like any negative feeling, the feeling is the self pity. You're asking yourself, what's the message in this self pity? And oftentimes it's something like, I'm inadequate, or I'm being mistreated. And then you have to figure out what the transforming truth is. And when you're experiencing that self pity, You tell yourself that transforming truth, and then you, even if you don't believe it, you act as if you really believe it. And then the consequences are what changes it. If I tell myself I can't speak to a group, and then I'm inadequate, I can't get up and talk to a group. I used to tell myself that. And then I stop and say, well, what am I experiencing? Fear. Okay. What's the message in fear? I'm in some kind of danger. Am I really in danger when I'm in front of that group? Are they going to throw things at me? Probably not. Are they going to think bad of me? Probably not. So I tell myself a truth. Hey, I can do this. And nothing bad is going to happen. And maybe some good things are going to happen. And then I act on it. And the results is positive. Then the positive results is what begins to change my attitude. It's not as much the statement and the action that changes your mindset, but the consequences of the statement and the action that changes the consequences.
Okay. All right. So the next question, okay, it's something. The question is like, share some insights on the importance of setting boundaries, because most of the time, what gives me stress is saying no to people. How
Uh-huh.
can I overcome that?
Yes. Decide ahead of time what you're willing and not willing to do, what you're willing and not willing to put up with. And then when the situation reaches that boundary, say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Or I feel really upset when you're talking to me that way. Please quit talking to me that way. In some way, assert yourself. But you have to set the boundary. You have to decide on the boundary ahead of time. When you're in the emotion of the situation,
Yeah.
it's hard to do. So ahead of time, decide what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, and then stick to that. Back years ago, I was practicing psychology and I was working in a hospital. And I got in the elevator and there was a psychiatrist that was a friend in the elevator. And it was like 5 o'clock in the evening and she was going home. And I said, how do you go home at 5 o'clock? She said, I just go home at 5 o'clock. She had decided on a boundary and she was putting that boundary into action. 5 o'clock comes, she quits and goes home.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Only now I'm left with two questions.
Okay.
So still, guys, if you have any questions, please do write, and you can ask your questions. Dr. Stanley will answer. So my second last question is: do you think that visualization or using affirmations can help in overcoming stress? That
Yes.
level
Yeah.
of being into pressure cooker.
Yes. The transforming truth. There's two places in my model that you use affirmations. One is the transforming truth, but it's an affirmation. It's not just a general affirmation, but it's one that's designed specifically for you based on what you know about yourself and the situation you're in.
Customized.
Right, it's customized. I've forgotten the name of the person that started using affirmations years ago. He said, every day in every way, I'm getting better and better.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not going to be so helpful. But if it's very specific and it's based on something that gives it some validity, it's designed for you, it can be very, very powerful. That's one place. The transforming truths is one place you use affirmations. The other place is when I set goals. Then I have a process that I go through where I ask myself, what character strength do I need in order to be successful with this goal? And I pair that to the goal. I want to uh, improve my financial situation. I am a wise consumer. So being a wise consumer enables me to move towards that goal of improving my financial situation. So it's custom designed to the situation, and it's something that you can put into practice. So those are the two ways I use affirmations in these processes that I guide people
Right.
through.
Right. And visualization?
And what was that?
Visualization.
Visualization. Also, in the goal setting process, I have people, basically, I go through 3 steps. And these 3 steps are designed to give you direction, increase your self-esteem, and program your mind to begin working on achieving the goal. I call them power goals. And power goals are better than SMART goals, if you're familiar
That's
with
right.
SMART goals.
Yeah.
Okay, once you set a goal, then I ask the question, if you had already achieved this goal and you were living in the reality of the goal,
Yep.
where would you be? Who would you be with? And what would you be doing? And I have people visualize that. And so they set the goal, they visualize it, and then they give themselves the affirmation
Yeah.
to accomplish those
Okay.
benefits.
That's yeah. That's wonderful. That setting the power goals instead of
Mhm.
smart goals.
Yes.
Okay, that's nice. Okay, the last question is any final tip you want to give to the audience who are watching us or who will be watching us later?
Yes. Um, think of stress as positive, and then build into your life the resources that you need to actually take action. Human beings tend to procrastinate and put off things that they don't want to do, take the easy way rather than the more difficult way. The very best thing you can do to overcome those things is get involved with a coach. So get involved in a coaching relationship where you have some sense of accountability. I promised somebody I was going to do something, and so I'm more likely to do it. That's one of the things that coaching can do. It can also help you reflect and pull your wisdom from within, so that you figure out what you know that you didn't know you know.
That's
And
right.
once you figure it out, it's your wisdom. And so you're much more likely to act on it. And then you have that sense of accountability because you're going to be coming back and saying, yes, I did it, or no, I didn't do it with the coach. Then that makes it more likely that you're going to act on it. So get a coach. It's the best way to make progress.
Sometimes the guidance is required. A guide can guide you better, right?
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful session.
Thank you.
So, friends, as we bring to the close of the session, prosper in the pressure cooker, how to survive when life turns up the heat. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to the incredible Dr. H. Paul Stanley for gracing us with his expertise and inspiration. And your insights and guidance have ignited a flame of resilience within us all. What I
Thank
believe.
you. Thank you. I thank you
And
for
I
the opportunity to present to your
and I
audience.
would thank you. I would also
Uh,
like to express my heartfelt appreciation for our esteemed audience. So, friends, your active participation, thoughtful questions, which we are still waiting, but your answers were actually good. And it actually made this session truly remarkable. Together, we have created a supportive community of individuals. And for those who are inspired to continue their journey of transformation, I invite all of you to connect with the Dr. Stanley through, you can connect with him through his website, or I'll mention his contact number, contact details in the description once the session will be over. So you can connect with him for the transformation and stay updated on his latest insights and events by following him on social media.
yep.
So, thank you once again. Thank you, Dr. Paul H. Paul Stanley, for being an unwavering beacon of hope and empowerment. And
Thank
thank
you.
you so much again, our amazing audience, for your openness to growth and your active presence, because that shows that yes, you are interested to get transformation. You actually want to work upon yourself. So let us continue to rise above life's pressures and thrive. Stay connected, stay inspired. See you all next week with the next speaker, with a new speaker and a new topic. Keep prospering in the face of adversity. Till then, stay healthy, take care. Bye bye.
Thank
Peace.
you.